Imagine this, if you will. You're sitting really quietly deep in a tropical forest in Papua New Guinea. The air is just thick with the sound of cicadas, leaves rustling, and you're just staring up into the canopy, looking, waiting. And down on the forest floor, you see these little clues. Flame red feathers. Tells you you're in exactly the right place.
Yeah.
Waiting for the Rajiana bird of paradise.
Oh, that's an experience that really puts you in the moment, doesn't it? That kind of anticipation, waiting for something genuinely wild.
It really does. And it sort of sets the scene perfectly for our deep dive today.
Absolutely, because we're going beyond just, appreciating one beautiful bird.
Race.
We're diving into the really incredible, sometimes almost unbelievable extremes of sexual selection in nature. Specifically, two amazing bird families, the birds of paradise and the bowerbirds.
Our mission, then, is to unpack the how and the why behind these, bizarre displays they put on. We're talking living art, architectural wonders.
Exactly. And figuring out what these birds can teach us about evolution, maybe aesthetics, even a bit about ourselves. We'll be using observations, historical accounts, and some really cool recent science.
Okay, so let's go back to that moment. Papua New Guinea, waiting for the Rajiana. My guide, Logan, he knew this spot, led me down this tiny path. We just sat there, totally silent. You hear the forest cicadas, this huge swallowtail butterfly just floated past, orioles, parrots calling.
Wow.
Then suddenly, whoosh, a male Rajiana flashes past, calling really loudly. Logan, he was so quick, actually managed a photo.
Incredible.
And these birds, they call them kumul in TikTok Paisan. They're the national bird. You see their image everywhere, big sculptures, even on beer labels.
Yeah.
And those red plumes, they're still used today in these amazing tribal headdresses. Later, we went back, and the leak was busy. 4 males, crow-size, zipping around.
Oh, fantastic.
Loud wah-wah-wah calls, but also these softer buzzing sounds, all showing off for, one female, or maybe it was a young male. Hard to tell sometimes.
What's amazing is how that echoes Alfred Russel Wallace's experience back in 1857 in the Aru Islands.
Right, Wallace.
He wrote about trying so hard to see birds of paradise dancing, but they were way up high in the leaves. He was watching the greater bird of paradise, golden plumes, not red like the Rajiana, but a close cousin, one of the very first Western naturalists to see it.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Their name, birds of paradise, and some of the crazy ideas people had early on.
Oh, yeah.
So the name came from Portuguese and Dutch traders in the Moluccas, way back in the 1500s. They bought these skinned birds from local Malay traders, and the locals called them God's birds. Then this explorer, Jan Huygen van Linschoten, wrote in 1596 that people believed these birds had no feet or wings.
No feet or wings? Seriously?
Yeah. They thought they just flew constantly, always into the sun, never landing.
Wow. Okay, so what was the real story?
Well, the much less dramatic truth was these skins came via secret trade routes from New Guinea. Locals shot them with, blunted arrows so they didn't damage the plumes. Ah, clever.
Then they'd remove the wings and feet before skinning them, for the headdresses, which, of course, fueled the whole myth back in Europe.
Right, so the preparation created the mystery. That makes sense.
And luckily now, we don't just have dried skins. We have these amazing, vivid glimpses of the living birds. A lot of that is thanks to people like Tim Lehman working for National Geographic, the BBC.
Oh, his work is incredible.
Totally. In 2010, he got the shot he'd hidden the camera, concealed with leaves, right on the display branch of a greater bird of paradise.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, captured the full display right at dawn. Just stunning.
When you really look at them, these birds of paradise, they're like living masterpieces shaped by sexual selection, almost like the Monets or Matisses of, female choice.
That's a great way to put it.
Even Wallace, who hadn't seen most of them display, he wrote about their extraordinary developments of plumage, unequaled anywhere else. And you mentioned the locals being reluctant to show him where the birds came from. That adds to their mystique, their value. And the Rajiana itself, that yellow hood, the green face, red body, gray beak, it's gorgeous. But it's those huge flame red flank feathers.
Oh, the plumes.
Yeah, they just explode into this fountain of color. Especially when the sun hits them from behind, they look like they're actually on fire. It's maybe less weird than some others, but definitely a classic lekking bird.
But then you get into the really weird stuff. Like the superb La Farina. Richard Prum at Yale studied its feathers. They're not just black, they're super black.
Super black? What does that even mean?
It means they have this microscopic structure, like tiny curved pits, that traps something like 99.95% of light. almost like Vanta black paint.
Whoa, okay.
So what happens is when it displays, the black parts basically vanish. It looks like a hole punched in reality, this oval void.
A hole in space-time. Seriously.
Pretty much. And against that void, it projects this fluorescent blue-green smiley face shape, these bright dots, and this iridescent shield on its chest. And it bounces and makes these loud clicking sounds. Your brain honestly struggles to figure out where the bird's head is.
That sounds completely surreal. Less bird, more optical illusion.
Exactly. And get this, there's a newly found cousin, the Vogelkopf-Lofarina. Ed Scholes and Tim Lehman found it in 2016.
Another one.
Yeah, different song, different look. Its display is more like a crescent shape, kind of a frowny face, and it's sort of sidle sideways.
Huh. So why the difference?
Well, the thinking is climate change probably separated the original population, and then, female preference just pushed them in slightly different, exaggerated directions. Shows how evolution can get creative.
Okay, that makes sense. Different paths.
And then there's the Laws Parotia. Its trick is this iridescent patch on its neck. Bodo Wiltz and his team looked at it closely. It's not just shiny, it's engineered, with layers of melanin and keratin, so it only reflects light at a very specific angle. When it dances, it looks like a light is literally switching on and off.
Wow. Like a tiny spotlight.
Precisely. A controlled flash.
It's just mind-blowing, the variety. You mentioned the blue bird of paradise, the magnificent king of Saxony with those crazy head ribbons.
Yeah, the blue flags.
Wilson's with the blue bald head, Wallace's standard wing. Each one is just this extreme statement piece, basically, forged by a female choice.
So, back to the Reggiana League for a second.
Huh?
What can we learn? Well, it looks remarkably like a black grouse lake, right? Even though they're thousands of miles apart.
Same spot every year. About 8 males, busiest at dawn.
Yep. Females show up when they're ready, they're super picky, and the males don't really fight much. It's all about the display, impressing the female.
But that's the weird thing, isn't it? Why do Reggianas do this day after day for months? No other bird in that forest has such a long, drawn-out courtship. What's going on there?
That is the puzzle. And it really seems like it's something the females impose on the males. Almost arbitrary,
How do we know that?
Well, look at breeding attempts in zoos like San Diego. They had Reggianas for years, couldn't get them to breed until they set it up like a leak. Put several males together, let one female choose, and boom, they started reproducing freely. Only when the female had that choice. Kind of proves Darwin right, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The power of choice. That's incredible. And what about complexity? Does more complex plumage mean like a simpler song or dance? A trade-off?
You'd think so, maybe. But recent studies, looking at thousands of videos, found the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. More complex plumage often goes with more complex songs, like Reggiana's in the canopy, colorful and noisy, Lofarinas on the forest floor, best dancers. Seems the birds with the fanciest feathers often have the most varied calls and the most intricate moves, too.
Wow. No trade-off then.
It led Russell Ligon to this idea of redundancy. Basically, if females look at multiple signals, feathers, song, dance, peel, then even a small improvement in one can spread because it adds to the overall package. It's like everything about the male gets pulled into the seduction effort.
Okay, so from these birds wearing their art, basically.
Living canvases, yeah.
Our journey now shifts to something maybe even stranger. Birds that build their art, moving from body decoration to external creations.
Exactly. And this is where we meet the bowerbirds, the architects of seduction.
So, picture this. I'm in northern Queensland now, and the sound is just this wild mix: whistles, squeaks, squawks, clicks, buzzes.
Mimicry.
Perfect mimicry of other birds. It was the tooth-billed bowerbird, kind of plump, khaki green with a stout, hooked beak. They have what's called an exploded lek. Males are nearby, can hear each other, but they have their own space.
Okay.
But here's the really cool part. It's artwork. It clears a patch of the forest floor, totally clean, no sticks, no dead leaves.
Right.
And then it arranges fresh green leaves, but turns them all upside down so the silvery undersides show.
Ah, nice touch. Simple but deliberate.
Exactly. It's maybe simple, but it's a huge moment, evolutionarily speaking. Sexual selection literally stepped outside the body. The bird is changing its environment to create art just to attract a mate.
That's a fascinating jump.
Yeah.
From feathers to external decoration.
And some species just took that idea and ran with it.
Right.
Dramatically. Another spot, dense rainforest again, took an hour's drive, then a mile hike. My guide, James Bocher, showed me the golden bowerbird's bower, and it was just monumental. 2 huge pyramids of sticks, maybe 3 feet high each.
Pyramids, wow.
Yeah, like maypoles or ziggurats, linked by a branch about a foot off the ground. Tens of thousands of twigs, all carefully placed. And at the ends of the branch, these neat piles of soft gray lichen topped with little white flowers.
Okay, that's elaborate.
You just stand there thinking, whoever built this really wanted it to be beautiful.
And then the builder shows up.
Yep. This delicate little bird, olive green back, bright golden yellow front, long yellow forked tail. It flew in, put a tiny white flower on the lichen pile, made this weird buzzing sound like a wind-up toy, and flew off for more stuff. It's almost unbelievable that such a small bird builds something so massive. Some can be 6 feet tall.
6 feet. That's incredible. Astounding effort.
It really is. But it also makes you think, James, the guide, he was saying how careful they have to be. Bower locations are guarded secrets.
Oh, because of collectors.
Exactly. Near where we were 3 years back, 3 adult males just vanished. Poached. Almost certainly for collectors, maybe in Arabia. It's tragic that their amazing efforts make them targets. Really highlights the need for conservation.
Definitely. Such a shame. So just to be clear, these bowers, they're not nests, right?
Not at all. Purely for seduction. Males build them, females visit, judge the quality, maybe mate. Then the male has nothing more to do with raising the young. It's exactly the same function as, say, the black grouse's fancy feathers, just an advertisement.
A very elaborate advertisement.
And the range of styles is amazing, from the toothbill's simple leaf court
Right.
to things like the Vogelkop bowerbird in New Guinea. It builds this little hut with a thatched roof and open door. Inside, neat piles of fruit, flowers, even bits of plastic, all sorted by color.
Sorted by color. Okay, that's getting sophisticated.
Yeah. When Otto Beccari first saw them in 1872, he literally didn't believe birds could build them.
I can see why.
Or McGregor's bowerbird, also in New Guinea, spends years building this huge maypole structure in a perfect circle of moss, decorates it with natural baubles.
Yes. Wow.
And the display is complex to mimicry, including laughing kids or barking dogs, apparently. Hide and seek around the maypole, then bam, flashes this yellow crest. The females really put them through their paces.
They certainly do. An elaborate ordeal.
My next bower encounter was almost comical. Border of Queensland and New South Wales.
Right.
Literally yards from a hotel spa car park.
Seriously, right by a spa.
Yep. Satin bowerbird. Its barrel was this U-shaped tunnel made of grass stems, sort of arched over, open at both ends.
Okay.
And the court in front was just littered with blue stuff. Bluish flowers, blue parrot feathers, and maybe 20 bright blue man-made things, bottle top, pen cap, Mentos wrappers, some weird medical plastic bit.
Obsessed with blue then.
Totally. The bird itself is chunky, dark, looks black from afar, but up close it's this deep, shiny indigo, and it has these amazing, bright violet eyes.
Striking.
And it's constantly tidying up, adding grass stems, painting the inside walls with berry juice.
Painting with juice.
Yeah, removing dead leaves, arranging his blue treasures. I even saw him doing a perfect king parrot imitation while he worked.
Busy bird.
So a female shows up. He hops over to his blue collection, grabs the bottle top, and starts making this sound. Honestly, it was exactly like a 1990s dial-up modem connecting.
Huh. That's brilliant. Did it work?
Well, she stepped inside the bower to check it out, but then he got a bit too excited, moved closer, and she just bolted, flew off. It's clearly a tense negotiation.
High stakes indeed. It sounds like it.
And what's fascinating here is the contrast with another species, the regent bowerbird.
Okay, how's that one different?
The regent male is stunning.
Mm-hmm.
Just incredibly beautiful black and the brightest yellow you can imagine. Orange head. Gorgeous bird.
Okay.
But it's bower. Kind of flimsy, not many decorations. And they only defend them for short periods. Often they display away from the bower first, then lead the female to it.
Ah, so there's a trade-off there.
Exactly. That seems to be the pattern. Species with the fanciest bowers tend to have the plainest males, and vice versa. It's like sexual selection, just jump tracks, from decorating the body to decorating an external object.
That's a really interesting switch from plumage to architecture.
And it's not just looks, there's a brain difference too. Research shows that the bowerbird species that build more complex bowers actually have larger cerebellums.
The cerebellum. That's for motor control, planning, learning procedures.
Yep. Suggests building these things takes serious brain power, you know? Procedural learning, motor planning. It points to some real cognitive complexity.
Wow, so it's physically and mentally demanding. Okay, you said you had one more bower experience.
Yeah, the last one, and maybe the weirdest. Outskirts of a small town, edge of a cemetery, right near a busy road. Great bowerbird.
Great bowerbird. Okay, and its collection.
Oh, it was bizarre. The bower itself was a stick tunnel, bigger than the satins, more enclosed, of the court. Just this huge spread of objects arranged by color. White things, snail shells, pebbles, white plastic. Clear things, broken glass, clear plastic. Gray things were interesting, plastic war toys, half a tank, some artillery guns, and a small plastic hand grenade.
A hand grenade? Seriously?
Seriously. My textbook even mentions another one found in a nearby town. And the star item, a plastic tiara with fake diamonds.
A tiara. Okay, this bird has taste.
Right. Then splashes of color, green berries, bits of red plastic, ripe red chili peppers, and it wasn't random. Definitely arranged.
And the bird itself, is it flashy?
Not really. Pale gray-brown, spotted back. It does have this bright lilac head crest, but it keeps it hidden most of the time. It was fussing with its objects, seemed quite proud of the tiara, made that same modem buzzing sound when a female turned up.
That modem buzz seems popular.
It must work. So the female arrives, she goes in and out of the bower, checks it out, even rearranges a few sticks herself.
Oh, she's inspecting the construction.
Totally. Meanwhile, the male's outside doing his thing, hopping, bowing, tail up, running, jumping, buzzing. At one point, he grabs a chili pepper and parades it back and forth while she's inside.
Showing off his prized possession.
Exactly. And all this careful arrangement, it leads to something really cool that John Endler discovered.
Ah, John Endler. He studies animal vision, right?
Yeah, at Deakin University. Back in 2010, he figured out that great bower birds arrange the white and gray stuff, the stones, shells, bones by size, bigger things further away, smaller things closer to the bower entrance.
Huh. Why would they do that?
It creates forced perspective. When the female looks out from inside the bower, all those objects seem to be the same size. It makes the court look smaller, more uniform.
Make the male look bigger.
Exactly. Makes the male performing on the court seem larger by comparison. And it's deliberate. They spend ages arranging things, then checking the view from inside. Endler's team messed with the arrangements.
And the birds put them back.
Put them right back. And he found the males who graded the sizes more carefully got more matings. So when the male waves that chili pepper, it looms large against that manipulated background.
That is incredibly sophisticated, using perspective illusions.
Endler asked, kind of cheekily, why did perspective evolve in bowerbirds before it did in humans?
That's a great question. It really makes you think about animal cognition differently.
Totally. So that cemetery bower with the tiara and the hand grenade, they'd be the furthest out, the biggest items, creating that illusion for the female as she peeks out. And then he flashes that lilac crest for contrast. It's performance art, really.
Performance art driven by evolution. Amazing.
Yeah.
So scientists have obviously studied this intensely.
Oh, yeah. Clifford and Don Frith did groundbreaking work on satin bowerbirds in Queensland, starting way back in the 70s. They color-ringed birds, tracked them, saw the whole mating process unfold.
What did they find about the females?
Well, females are really discerning. They'll visit lots of bowers over weeks, check them out repeatedly, narrow it down, and eventually mate with just one male. Then they raise the chicks entirely alone.
So the male's job is purely the courtship. And the bower.
Yep. And competition between males is fierce. They raid each other's bowers, steal decorations, even trash the place.
Sabotage.
Exactly. And it takes males a long time to get established. A male satin looks like a female for maybe 5 years, doesn't get his full blue plumage till later, might not even own a successful bower until he's 8 or 10. They often inherit good spots, sites used for decades. A newcomer building too close gets destroyed.
Wow. Tough real estate market.
You could say that. Which leads to a really neat experiment. Seth Coleman, Gail Petrocelli, Gerald Borgia, they did the study on satin bowerbirds in New South Wales around 1999-2000.
Okay, what did they do?
It was clever, maybe slightly mean to the control group.
Yeah.
They took half the bowers and added extra blue stuff, plastic tiles, strands, gifts from heaven, basically.
Yeah.
The males loved it, put them right in. The scientists fixed those decorations down. Then, for the other half, the control bowers, they confiscated any blue objects the birds brought.
Ouch. Okay, so enhancing some, depleting others.
Yeah.
To see if it affected female choice.
Precisely. And the result was fascinating and unexpected. It depended on the female's age.
Really? How so?
Younger females, first or second year breeders, they were way more impressed by the enhanced bowers, much more likely to hang around, watch the male display, and eventually mate with those males, like 3 to 5 times more likely.
Wow. Big difference. And older females.
Older, more experienced females, 3 years or older, they weren't really swayed by the extra bling. Didn't seem to make much difference to their choices.
Huh. So experience matters. Maybe they're looking at other things, the male's display quality, the bower structure itself, not just the decorations.
Could be. It shows female choice isn't simple. There's variation, learning, maybe. It complicates things.
Definitely complicates the picture. So where does this leave the big debate in sexual selection? Is it about good genes or runaway selection?
Right. Could these bowers, these displays, be honest signals? A male satin who builds a great bower, keeps it tidy, defends it well, sings and dances impressively. Maybe that does indicate he has good genes, good health, smarts.
Makes sense. Quality control for the females?
Or is it just this runaway process? Females prefer fancy bowers because females have always preferred fancy bowers, and if they don't choose a male with one, their sons won't inherit the trait and won't get mates either. A kind of self-fulfilling cycle with no real underlying benefit.
The Fisherian runaway idea. Just preference driving preference?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the truth is probably, well, it's likely a bit of both, isn't it? Like with Lek and Grouse, there are probably elements of good gene signaling and this arbitrary runaway effect happening.
Yeah, it's so rarely one simple answer in biology.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder, building a 6-foot stick pyramid, or obsessively collecting blue plastic, or arranging toy soldiers and tiaras.
Right.
Does that really signal good genes for, say, avoiding predators? Or does it just show you're really good at building pyramids or finding blue stuff? It feels quite random sometimes.
It does feel wonderfully random, almost creative. Which brings us back to the start, really. This whole deep dive, it's shown this incredible range from the birds of paradise wearing their art,
Their incredible plumage and dances.
to the bower birds building theirs, architectural wonders, collections. They're just such powerful examples of how female choice, sexual selection can drive evolution to these absolute extremes.
They really do dissolve the lines, don't they, between what we think of as art and science, even between us and birds. There's this incredible, almost whimsical, creative force at play, driven by female preference.
So the final thought, maybe, is what does all this creativity, this almost arbitrary beauty, tell us about evolution's possibilities, about maybe our own sense of aesthetics, where that comes from?
Yeah. It's a reminder, isn't it, that life finds ways to thrive and reproduce that are just endlessly bizarre, beautiful, and surprising. There's always more